What's up, guys? So we're going to be doing another tier list, a March one this time. Haven't done one in a while. Look, I'll be honest, guys. This format is arse. I have not been playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh at all. I'm not enjoying any of the strategies in the meta at the moment. And so for me, I mean, which is fine. I mean, not every format is going to be fun for everyone, but that's why I haven't really been doing many Yu-Gi-Oh videos, just because I don't play enough really anymore to do videos. But hopefully the ban list will shake it up a bit. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting meta. We have a lot of really powerful decks. It's kind of this is one of those less, in my opinion, less accepting formats where it's like you can't play rogue as comfortably because the top decks are just so incredibly strong now. One thing I will say is it's not on this tier list because it's more of an engine than a deck. But in my opinion, the Brave package is a tier 0 engine, as well as DP. I'd say they're both tier 0 engines. You're playing one or both if you're topping, almost always now. However, they're not really decks in themselves, which is why they're not on the tier list. But if I was to like rate where they would be, there, in my opinion, it is actually a tier 0 format with those engines. If you're not playing those and you're not playing Floowandereeze, you're probably not doing very well, but is what it is. But yeah, let's get into it. So Altergeist, yeah, don't even try it. It's just crap. I don't know why I have a tier below don't even try it. Let's change the name of don't even try it to Rogue, because I don't know why I have don't even try it and then have D after that. So we'll have Rogue and then we'll have don't try it. Right. So yeah, Altergeist, just yeah, it's been kind of crap to be honest, not much to say about it. Sky Striker, I'm gonna put at the bottom of tier 3. Sky Striker isn't bad, but the problem is essentially the speed of the meta has just sped up so dramatically with the Adventurer engine and with DP Scythe that Sky Striker just really doesn't hold up. You can still do pretty good. I don't think playing Sky Striker is necessarily 100% a bad decision, especially because it's quite a cheap deck. But I mean, even the Brave DP variants of Striker, it's like, why play that when you can just play Based or something? So that's the main problem. It's just too slow, or not necessarily slow, but not aggressive enough in my opinion compared to the top decks. Still has a chance, but yeah, in my opinion, it won't do amazingly. Salad is going to be another one that's Rogue or even below Rogue. It has a really good DP matchup, but again, too slow, and yeah, it doesn't play the Brave engine amazing. Well, I've seen one or two builds of it, but in general, it's not amazing with the Brave engine, which also is making it quite weak, so Salad's just not a good choice. Flander's tier 1, yeah, the support just made it really good. And right now, you have a choice. You're playing Braves, you're getting Scythe locked, basically. You're going for Scythe lock, or you're playing Flander. And if you're not, and what's really nice about Flander is obviously they don't care much about that kind of Scythe lock nonsense. They also can trade relatively well with DP, not amazingly well, but in general, the DP player, the burden is on the DP player to pop at a more critical juncture than it is on the Flander player, because for the Flander player it's very easy to kind of just keep spamming normal summons and DP can just pop one card. They don't give a crap about Scythe Lock. They're also very good into hand traps, well, not very good, but a lot better than a lot of decks. They also have almost have a pseudo Call by the Grave in Dimension Shifter, because if they activate Dimension Shifter you can't hand trap them with things like Ghost Ogre, which is really good. So, or Droll, which is another hand trap that hurts them, or Lancia, which is another hand trap which is good against them. So yeah, Flander's definitely tier 1. The quick play just did a lot for them, and also this format is a format where they can really excel. Drytron, I'm actually going to put at the bottom of tier 2. So Drytron, it's not a meta deck. It's not like a heavy meta deck. But it has the advantage of, again, it has to care less about the Scythe Lock than a lot of other decks. And it's still Alpha Zeta is busted. Resolving Alpha Zeta or like Zeta plus Diviner, for example, these combos are still insane. Drytron is still going to put up really good boards. And the Megalith Drytron build is also a very good build. It's still doing a good job. So I definitely think Drytron, bottom of tier 2. It's not an amazing deck, but it is getting tops here and there because of the nature of the deck. And I think being in a Scythe format, this is a deck that can both play the Scythe Lock and play around the Scythe Lock, which is really good. So that's why I'd say Drytron definitely deserves to be bottom of tier 2 at least. Virtual World, if you're playing, so again, look guys, as I go through all of this, always assume that if the deck can play Brave, Brave will probably put in a tier above. Just assume that, okay? So Virtual World with Brave, probably just right at the bottom, tier 1. Virtual World without Brave, round about tier 2. Virtual World is a good deck. Shen is still a great card, quite consistent. The base build and the Punk engines have added a lot more emergency teleports. It's just steadily gotten little by little buffs. Now, I'd say the main disadvantage of Virtual World compared to some of these other decks is it still is a bit more bricky than them, because you do need 2 Virtual World names. but it has got a really high ceiling. I mean, playing against base Virtual World is just not base, sorry, Brave Virtual World is quite frustrating because some of the boards they put out are just really irritating with the Shen on top. And Virtual World also has Chuche. Shen, Chuche, yeah, I keep saying Shen, but yeah, Chuche as well. Chuche is an amazing card too. So I do think Virtual World is good. I don't think it's the best of the Brave decks, but definitely a solid one. And even by itself, it's still a good contender. It's still a good budget deck as well. If you can't afford Brave and you want to play a budget deck, Virtual World is another really good choice alongside Sky Strike, in my opinion, to just pick up and play. But yeah, really good. Ignista bottom of tier 2. Ignista I think is a great deck that's being slept on. It's really just due to the fact that right now, and you'll look guys, if you're bored of me saying Brave already, look, you might as well just click off the video because that's going to be the whole video. But right now, the format really for the most part is, like I said, Scythe DP locks, abusing the Brave engine, and then Flunder. If you're a deck that can very efficiently get to the Scythe/DP lock, like 1 or 2 cards, then chances are you're going to be a good deck this format. So we have these just really efficient and compact engines at the top because you want to be able to play a lot of hand traps as well to stop other people getting to the Brave engine. So this is a really long-winded way of saying this is why I think Ignista is actually pretty good this format, and why I think it's been seeing quite a bit of success this format, because for the most part it's a lot of very, very good 1 and 2 card combos into a rival, which is hard to out. Most Brave decks can't just natively out it. So I took Ignista to I've taken it to like 2 or 3 tournaments now and been doing so well, because literally I know some of the Chi full combo 4k arrival. It's very hard to deal with that immediately, especially because you're only using 1 card, so you still got 4 hand traps and you've got the Danmari engraved for negate. So yeah, definitely Ignista is a good deck. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's close to tier 1, but I'd say right at the bottom of tier 2 as well. Not as good as Drytron, for example, but definitely does a good job. Just a quick note, if you're one of those guys who's playing Dark Fluid in Ignista, stop doing that. I don't know. I keep hearing people say I play Dark Fluid in Ignista because a rival loses to Kaijus and stuff. It doesn't make sense because Dark Fluid also loses to Kaiju, so yeah, just stop doing that, it's stupid. But no, yeah, Invoked. So Invoked, this is a hard one, but I'm going to say tier 3. The problem with Invoked essentially is just, yeah, it can't Scythe lock, it can't use the Brave engine, so it literally can't use the 2 strongest engines in the format. Also doesn't have a great Flunder matchup. Now, it's still doing, Invoked Dogma DP is still doing the crazy things it's doing before sometimes. So when it goes first and it sets up, it is still amazing. It's still probably one of the more oppressive decks because they have so many cards that it's like, if you don't ash this, they get like a +3. Like Nadir Servant will get them like 4 cards. Fusion Destiny is going to get them the DP, which is going to pop one of your cards, then it's going to get them a draw 2 on the next turn. Meltdown is going to get them the Alistair that you can't respond to. I mean, it's still got all of that power, but it's not as consistent and it can't use those busted engines, and it also lacks a bit of utility going second. Funnily enough, I do think the Shadow variant is probably a bit stronger this format, even though that also loses the similar things. That variant is a lot better in terms of utility, so it's got kind of the access to aerial, you've got easier on-demand spell and trap destruction in the form of Dragon, so the Shadow variant might be a variant that people could look at, but yeah, definitely it's a shame, but Invoked has gone down. Madolche I'm actually going to put, again, bottom of Rogue. Problem with Madolche is just not consistent. Yeah, in my opinion, there's just really never a reason to play Madolche's. It's just not consistent. It's not that good going second. Its board going first is completely unimpressive. I mean, it's just not doing much. And that's another thing as well. Brave is also changing the way we play go second decks as well, because if you go first, if you're a deck like Madolche, which relies on having a strong turn 3, this is quite similar to how Drytron used to be before they got their XYZ, and this is how Ignista is. If you're a deck that relies on having a strong turn 3, you have to remember the Brave engine is going to out your board with probably just 2 cards. They're probably going to have just the right of, they're going to bait out a negate, and then they're going to use right of Aramesha and bounce something, and that's going to usually crack your board a lot of the time, which means you need to be putting up very strong boards going first. And so this is why decks like Madolche end up being weaker, because the board they put up most of the time turn 1, it's like 2 graveyard spins and an invulnerable monster that doesn't do anything, and 1 negate in the form of Promenade. That's not enough. It's very, very easy to out that with 1 right of Aramesha, whatever, blah blah blah. So that's another reason why decks like that are going to be weak, and that's why we have so many. You're going to see me put in a lot of decks in the kind of rogue or don't try it category, because it simply just becomes a case where it's like, if you can't play Brave and you can't do a very, very effective, efficient combo like Ignista, because Madolche has got an efficient one, but if it's not as efficient as Ignista, and I mean like 1 card consistent good board, it's probably not worth playing. So yeah, that's why Madolche ends up being down there. Dragons, I'm going to put them right at the bottom, right at the top, sorry, of tier 2 / bottom of tier 1. There's an argument to be top of tier 1. Firstly, they can play Brave really well. Secondly, they really effectively can OTK through hand traps and stuff. There's only like Draw and Lance here. Those are the only 2 hand traps that they really heavily care about. Even Nib, a lot of times Dragon can play straight through it, which is just really great. And yeah, it's just, I think people are finally starting to solve this deck again and really see the different abilities that it has. I mean, some of the interruptions they have are so hard to deal with. Like even Seals alone, Seals Pass sometimes is a frustrating board. Seals plus the trap is a frustrating board because they can bounce anything and then they're going to summon something from the deck, which is going to give them further pluses. So yeah, Dragons definitely has a lot of potential and it's doing pretty good. Dinos, again, this is another format where Dinos should be great, but for some reason it's not. It might be a hand trap thing, but I mean, for example, there are better decks like Virtual World and Dragon Link, which lose to Lancia, but they're still managing to do well. So I don't know why Dinos is struggling so much. But realistically, I would have thought Dinos would be up here somewhere in tier 2, but unfortunately I've seen literally nothing, which is why I'm putting it in Rogue. Not because I think it's amazingly bad, but because I'm not seeing any results. If I don't see any results, I don't think I can say it's better than anything above it. So that's why I'm putting Dinos in the Rogue tier. Earth Machine, yeah, look, I don't rate this deck. It just loses to every hand trap. That's really the fundamental problem with it. Its board is unimpressive. Yeah, it's just like, okay, it's like one monster and then a couple of set, which is really just amounts to like maybe a pop 1 or a pop 2, and then occasionally hand traps if they're lucky. And yeah, they lose to every hand trap. So yeah, that deck's going down there. I'm going to put Mech Knights at the top of Rogue. Mech Knights do have an okay matchup into some of these Scythe and Brave decks because Brave decks tend to suck columns well. However, Mech Knights still have the problem that very weak to the same hand traps again. They can play Brave, but you don't really want to play Brave in a deck like Mech Knights because you want to be going second, and the Brave engine isn't necessarily amazing going second. It's good going second, but it's not amazing because there's quite a few bricks. And yeah, Mech Knights, people want you to believe that Mech Knights play really well around Scythe. They don't believe the hype. If you have a PK board and they just Scythe locked you, your Mech Knights are doing nothing. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll beat over one monster, but yeah, Mech Knights need the extra deck. So yeah, Mech Knight's definitely going to be Rogue. Subterrace is also going to be Rogue. Just in general control decks, again, that can't play Brave, I'm going to be doing well. So this, let me quickly check my tier list to see that I have I got PK on here somewhere? I do not, so I won't talk about actual BA since I don't have MBA there. So this is going to represent PK. Oh, actually, no, I do have PK there, so I can talk about PK later on. So yeah, essentially with Burning Abyss, just play PK. Just play PK Burning Abyss. Don't play pure Burning Abyss because it's crap. So in fact, I'm actually going to put in don't try it. Just don't play it. It's just subpar in every instance. Cyber Dragon's also going to be subpar. Just isn't doing nothing. Infernobles, bottom of Rogue. They do have very annoying kind of OTK combos and hand rip combos, but at the end of the day, they do die hard to hand traps on the Aurora Dawn. That is a big choke point, and they can't really play Brave again, so no reason to play them. Tri-Brigades, on the other hand, I'm actually going to put them in middle to bottom of tier 2. Tri-Brigades have seen a little bit of results, both Tri-Brigade, pure Tri-Brigades, and bird Tri-Brigades. And I think it's, again, this is another kind of very efficient deck. They have a lot of 1.5 and 2 card combos that are really nice. They can play the Scythe DP lock, which is great. And even though they can't really play Brave, that doesn't really matter for them because they have those kind of 2 consistent lines of play, being the normal summon Tri-Brigade and then also the Karas. So having those options, I mean, it's just really great, and I do think Tri-Brigade has a little bit of potential. It's not, again, as strong as the top tier decks, but yeah, I'd say Tri-Brigade, bottom of tier 2, yeah, potentially higher, we'll see. Pendulums, don't try it, still crap. Sword Soul, so this is going to be, the thing about Sword Soul is that it's evolved a lot, but this is going to be pure Sword Soul, and then I'll talk about the evolved kind of Sword Soul build later on. But as for, actually, did I put it in? Let me look at my list. No, I didn't put it in, so you know what? We'll just talk about, so if it was pure Sword Soul, I would say that it would be middle of tier 2. However, if we're talking about it's not really Sword Soul, more of synchro spam nonsense, I don't know what you even call that deck, plus a little bit of a Sword Soul engine that you search halfway through, definitely a tier 1 deck. And it really just comes down to, this is the epitome of this format. The level of explosiveness they have off 1 or 2 cards is just so hard for most decks to keep up with, and that's why I think they have a lot of potential, and that's why they're going to be slapping decks left and right. They can play Brave, they don't necessarily have to play Brave, it really comes up to whatever they want to do, but the deck just works so well because of that. I mean, they essentially they try and do a sword soul play. If you stop them, they go into how can they do another crazy play, and that's what makes it so good, because sword soul already was quite difficult to stop sometimes, and then having this on top and making a Baron early, I mean, just a really great deck. So Shadow's, like I said, I have a feeling Shadow's a Shadow Invoked variant is going to be at the same level as a Dogma Invoked variant, so we'll see. I don't know, but for now I'm going to leave it there. I think that's okay. Endymion, it's better. I mean, it's better than Pendulums, but in fact, it's not even better than Pendulums anymore now that they've got Skullcrobat and stuff back. So no, still bad. Gran Maju, unfortunately, actually, for now I'm going to put in Don't Try It. I know Yishan has been working on improvements to the deck and that different strategy, and I did do a little bit of theory crafting as well, but unfortunately the loss of Desires really hurt this deck. Desires was such a key card because it gave you that well needed speed and aggression in the deck, and losing it just does a lot to kind of cripple this deck, unfortunately. So yeah, Gran Maju definitely is going to be in the Don't Try It for now until we kind of further figure out how to make the deck better. Mystic Mind, Don't Try It. Unfortunately, Brave outs Mystic Mind very easily. Yeah, so you're not going to be Mystic Mind Burn is what I'm talking about. You're not going to be consistently winning with a Mystic Mind Burn strategy, in my opinion, because it's not even destructive removal as well. So yeah, that's just unfortunate. Adamancipator, I'm actually going to put them at the bottom of tier 3 because they keep seeing results here and there, and it really just comes down to the fact that Adamancipator is actually a good combo deck. It's not a bad combo deck, it just doesn't have amazing recursion, and it kind of splurges out so much of his extra deck, so that it's kind of its recovery and stuff tends to not be amazing, but it is still a very good deck if piloted well. It still has the same strength of, on the first kind of summon, a lot of times you do have to interrupt them, because if you don't interrupt them, you might see a quirky Merry Guardian, and now you're definitely not interrupting them. Imperm was a great hand trap against them for that reason, but Imperm isn't great this format, and so as a result, yeah, Adamancipator, it's not a terrible combo deck. It's not amazing, but definitely not a terrible one. Live Twins is going to be, I would say, one of the top of Rogue tier as well. The thing about Live Twins, the ability to play loads of hand traps and have very consistent line of plays is always going to be great for it, and so for that reason I think it's always going to be kind of like at least a Rogue tier deck. It's almost, I would compare Live Twins actually to Salad. I would say that they're functionally the same deck, it's just that Salad relies a little bit more on in-archetype disruption with his traps, but they're functionally doing the same thing. One normal summon plus maybe an extender, and it always does the same kind of board, always does the same level of interruptions. It's not going to do anything spectacular. They can Cypher Lock you, by the way, which is, of course they can. But yeah, definitely still good enough to be called Rogue, I would say, and it can Cypher Lock you, which is nice. Orcust, unfortunately, this format definitely is just going to be Rogue, or if not below. Again, it can Cypher Lock you, but everything can Cypher Lock you, so it's like, why would you play this over something else that can do it more efficiently? Prank Kids, Brave Pranks is definitely going to be a tier 1 deck. Just a great deck. This is the epitome, another epitome of just everything in this format. It really just comes down to normal summon a prank, have your Brave board set up, normal summon a prank, and then get full combo off one card. And then you've also got the Brave engine, and then you also got hand traps all took through. I mean, it's just a great deck at the moment with Brave. Brave Pranks is definitely one of the strongest decks of the format. It definitely always sees good results as well, because it's just so consistent, which is really great. It's funny because I do have a friend who does play this deck, and occasionally he bricks and sees absolutely horrid hand, but at the same time, sometimes you see absolutely insane hands, so it's kind of a toss-up. I would say that this deck is probably like the logical progression of the Invoked Shadow deck, in terms of Invoked Dogma deck, in terms of having so many bombs it's hard for your opponent to answer. Brave Pranks does a similar thing, because obviously they're going to have Fusion Destiny, then they're going to have the Rite of Aramazia, then they're also going to have the normal summon prank. I mean, just so many different engines combining together that you have to Ash or hit something, and it's decks like this that really force us into a format where you need to play so many hand traps and hope you see 2 hand traps to play the game, because if you don't, I mean, they just run over you. Eldlich, so this is pure Eldlich. I'm going to say pure Eldlich is definitely going to be tier 2. Spell and trap decks are weak. However, the advantage of Eldlich is that skill drain being at 3 has started to come up now, because the format's getting more and more solved, so we can play more specific interruptions that affect certain decks. And then on top of that, you can fit, even though I'm saying pure Eldlich, you can fit certain engines into this to make this better. Now, I am going to talk more about the more combo variant of Eldlich, but at least pure Eldlich I'm going to say is middle of tier 2, maybe close to the bottom. Zoo, yeah, I guess it's better than these decks. I have seen 1 or 2 Zoo builds, but I still don't think it's amazing. But it's always going to be floating around. Pure Dogmatica is going to be in the Don't Try It. It's just crap at the moment. Pure Dogmatica It's just not as fast. If you want to play a control / stun, if you want to play a control deck, don't play a stun deck and play Flunder. That's my opinion. I've got 2 Dragoon pictures, but so Dragoon variants and Dragoon in general. Dragoon is still a good card, which is why I'll say it's going to be kind of middle to top of Rogue. And if you take it to a locals, if you take it to a regionals, you have a good chance of just winning for free if you see good dice rolls, just because Dragoon still ends games and it does trade actually quite well with things like the Brave engine. However, the bricks that it has in it means that in the longer the tournament is, the more likely you're going to see these bricks and the more likely you're going to see those dead hands, and that's always going to be the problem with Dragoon, right? I mean, sometimes it will brick you and it will really wreck you. So that's all these kind of Dragoon control decks. Ice Jade, don't try it. Deck looks amazing, but it's crap. Heroes, guys, I'm putting Heroes bottom of tier 3, and you know, in my opinion, it has potential to be a bottom of tier 2. Heroes, I've hated Heroes for so long, but really and truly, Fusion Destiny being in the game and DP being in the game has made Heroes just so much better than before, and we're now starting to see a lot better hero builds that are really just relying on DP and Dark Law to really control the game state. Dark Law is an amazing card against almost every deck in the format. Even Flunder, it's not bad against Flunder because they still search cards. So they search a card and it still gets banished. Yeah, I mean, they want their cards banished, but they don't want to lose a card from the hand. But yeah, Dark Law is amazing, DP is amazing, Denier is so strong. Denier makes Heroes so strong as well. They do still have the weakness of kind of dying to very specific, not very specific, but a lot of generic removal cards like Raigeki, Dark Hole, Lightning Storm. Their board can get cleared by that, but I do think Heroes still has potential, and I definitely think it's better than everything here. Yeah, I don't like Heroes, but I can definitely respect it enough to put it in tier 3. Magikey is still crap, just play Drytron, is bad. Thunder Dragons is another one which I'm actually going to put at the top of tier 3. 60 card Thunder is a great deck at the moment and has just so many options, especially with Snow being back. Yeah, really good card. They can dump Snow quite easily with the Curious combo, so yeah, definitely I think that 60 card Thunder is a deck that people should be looking at. Infernoids, unfortunately, I'm going to say is going to be kind of bottom of Rogue. The main problem I'll say with Infernoids is just consistency. The interruption isn't that relevant anymore because these decks are plussing like they're putting like 10 cards on the board, so your interruption needs to be quite hectic, and then they're just not as consistent, unfortunately. Unchained is going to be bottom of tier 2, same as it was before. Look, every time someone argues with me, I say, look, this deck has top 2 ICSs now, so that alone, in my opinion, means that if you're saying that it's not tier 2, I don't know what you think is tier 2, because there's decks in tier 2, there's other decks here that haven't top 2 ICSs, so yeah, Unchained definitely has a lot of potential, just does really well to DP, can play Dimension Shifter, which is great hand trap. Yeah, just everything about Unchained makes it really great. Birds, similar to Tri-Brigade, I'll put it a little bit above Tri-Brigade with the bird engine, I would say. It got a lot weaker after last format, and I'll definitely say, if I look at right now, though, the tier 1 is going to get bigger in a bit, but right now I would say that this is probably after Virtual World again, this is the kind of, there's a big gap in sort of power level between these decks and these decks. So I would definitely say that while Birds is good, it's nowhere near as close as these two decks, especially with Brave. Same as Tri-Brigade, it's a great deck, nowhere near as close as these two decks. In terms of power level, Drytron is, but in terms of consistency, it isn't. But yeah, I'd definitely say there is a big kind of power level gap here. When you're moving on, Ogdoadic is Rogue, not really seeing it do much, so yeah, nothing to say about that. B-Troopers, unfortunately, while DP Turbo is still good, it's not enough. You need to also be scythe-locking people this format. Maybe you can scythe-lock people in B-Troopers, I don't know, I haven't seen any B-Trooper players do it, and I don't play the deck myself, but yeah, I'll put it at the bottom of tier 3, not a bad deck. Actually, I'll put it higher than Sky Striker at least. I'll put it higher than Invoked and Sky Striker at least, because it has potential, but just not necessarily as good as other decks. PK, now, PK is a really weird one. If I was basing this just on like DB and locals, it would be tier 1. However, it just doesn't seem to have that representation at the highest level. I don't really know why. I've heard a lot of different theories, but in general, it just doesn't, and that's why I'm keeping it out of tier 1. I do think Brave PK is an insane deck, but for some reason, it just doesn't convert that well. And so that's why I'm keeping it out of tier 1, but it's still a very good deck. Pure Lyrilusk, unfortunately, is going to be bottom of Rogue. It's just lost too much stuff. Essentially losing the stuff that the hits to try Lyrilusk hit Pure Lyrilusk just as well, and then being a pure XYZ go second deck to OTK is not going to work in Scythe-Lock format. Paleos is going to be Rogue as well. Not a bad deck, but not amazing. Sharks. So here's the thing, I'm really sad about this, but Sharks is not going to be another rogue deck. It's again similar to these kind of mid-range. You're kind of seeing a pattern here where you have these mid-range kind of control-y decks, and essentially if they can't Cyflock you or play Brave, it's almost like why bother playing them. And so unfortunately losing Desires and not being able to play those powerful engines just makes Sharks not as good, which is a shame because I really do love that deck. Fluffals has a lot of potential, so I'm actually going to put at the bottom of tier 3. One of the strengths of Fluffals is that they were Cyflocking you before it was cool, and they can still do it very, very effectively. They also can play cards like Super Poly and stuff very easily and natively in the deck, which is really good. This format, Super Poly, is becoming a lot better this format. So yeah, definitely Fluffals has potential. Now, moving on to the last 3, we're going to start off with Based. So Based is going to be tier 1. Now, look guys, full disclosure, while I've played a bit this format, I've played so much less than other formats that my expertise with all of the top decks is not that good. So take the order of the tier 1 decks with a grain of salt. I don't really know which one is that much better than the other in granular detail, sorry. But, so we're going to start off with Based. Based is amazing. Essentially, it's like I said, the ability to kind of just put so many interactions on board through 1-card, 2-card combos, or just having so many bombs is just so frustrating to deal with your opponent. Illusion of Chaos is an amazing card because it makes Magician's Souls so much better, because it's basically brickless now. So Magician's Souls just becomes so much better to play in the deck because of this card. And yeah, just the ability to sculpt your hand how you want, to have so many different layers of interruption, because you have interruption in the form of the Eldlich cards, you have interruption on the field in the form of the gates. It's like you can play without your extra deck, you can play with your extra deck. Just the versatility of this deck and all of this packaged up into the 60 card nonsense just makes it so good. So it's really, really impressive just how well this deck is. Definitely think it's tier 1 deck. I would probably say it's better than Flunder. I would actually say, again, this is my guess, though I don't know if it's right. One of you guys can tell me what you think your order is. But I would say probably Brave Pranks, in my opinion, is the best. Not because of power level, but because of consistency. Then I'd probably say Based or Sword Soul would probably be after them Flunder. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. But yeah, Based, really, really good deck. Definitely has a lot of potential. Despia. So Despia right now, bottom of tier 2. Mainly because they struggle so hard with the top decks. I'd say if Flunder didn't exist, or Cyflock wasn't in the game, Despia has a huge chance of being a tier 1 deck already without even getting the extra support. But unfortunately, I mean, they can barely out a barrier statue. What are you going to do when you come up against 3 Flunder guys in the tournament? You're going to lose. So that's what's a bit sad about Despia. However, it is still a really good deck. They do have a lot more support coming out, so this deck is very likely to be a tier 1 or high tier 2 deck next format. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely a really, really good deck, and definitely one I would recommend looking at picking up, because the prices, in my opinion, are only going to go up. I mean, what I would say is wait for the structure deck to come out and then pretty much buy after that if you don't see any crazy spikes. And then Dynorphia. So Dynorphia I'm actually going to put at the bottom of tier 3. Dynorphia has a lot of potential now. Dynorphia is like the perfect example of why life points don't matter in Yu-Gi-Oh! This deck, I've been playing it quite a bit, and this deck, it's common to end your games with less than like 100 life points, but it does not matter because this deck generates advantage so well. This deck is also an indictment on power creep, because for example, pretty much all of their monsters float into each other. So it's got like Unchained gimmicks in it, but then it's also got a really strong back row game. It's got like a Fuge from Deck Trap, which is amazing. I mean, everything on this deck is great. I'd say the main weakness that you're going to have with Dynorphia is if your initial Theresia normal summon gets stopped, you can get screwed, or if your domain doesn't get to resolve, you can get screwed. But by and large, the deck is amazing, and when they get their level 8 Rexram, which is the picture I use, they're going to be even better. Not having that now is hurting them a lot, but I mean, think about it, the deck is this good already, in my opinion, and it doesn't even have their main boss monster. Yeah, Dynorphia is definitely a good deck and definitely going to be one to watch out for. So guys, that is my tier list for March. So yeah, have what you will. This one I feel like I'm not as confident about the rankings just because I haven't been playing the format as much. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens on. Hopefully Konami does a ban list, because Scythe DP is not fun to play against. Flunder is also not fun to play against. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll talk to you soon.